So there's my name, there's my contact info. You'll also see it at the end. Please don't hesitate to get in touch if I can be of any assistance. So what you might find, even at a research university, is that you get asked to do both a traditional job talk about your research and a teaching demonstration. And this happens even at places like the University of Wisconsin at Madison, right? Elite research institution. I've worked with multiple people who've interviewed at Madison who've been asked to do both. What you will often find is that candidates invited to campus are being asked to do more things than in the past, being asked to do all the things. So you might be prepping a traditional job talk and a teaching demo, and I'll talk about variations of teaching demos in just a second. You might find yourself doing only a teaching demonstration. The more teaching intensive the position, the more likely it is that there won't actually be a job talk because your research bona fides are just taken for granted. And so, for instance, when I interviewed at St. Joseph's across town, there was just a teaching demonstration. And St. Joe's being a relatively teaching intensive institution. You might even find yourself being asked to do more than one teaching demonstration. And again, if you're, some of you may be applying for specifically teaching track jobs, some of which are tenure track, but in teaching track, some of which may be non-tenure track, but might actually be a good, stable position with prospects of reappointment and even promotion, but in where the job is only about teaching. And so I worked with one biologist who had to do two teaching demos, one in a large class and one in a small class. You may also be asked to not do a teaching demo per se, but to do a presentation about teaching, where you're asked to elaborate on some of the ideas that maybe you talked about in your teaching statement, or maybe another ask that I've seen is that you're asked to talk the committee through a couple of classes. So you're giving a presentation about courses that you would teach. I find that variation to be a little bit odd, but it's certainly one that I've encountered in multiple disciplines. The length of these things can also be variable. Working with one person who was doing an interview in the UK, both the job talk and the teaching demonstration were like 15 minutes, which is an extreme, sort of at the extreme end of the short side, all the way up to possibly 75 or 80 minutes. So how might this demonstration happen? You might be dropping into someone's class. Here, they might end up having one faculty member give up 4 classes in her class for each of the finalists, and you might find yourself having to teach whatever that professor had planned to cover that day. This is something that I've seen multiple times where you don't have any discretion over the topic. You might parachute into somebody's class and have them say, what do you want to teach? And there, I think you can have hopefully some collegial back and forth with the instructor and try to find something that's going to work for their students and work in the context of their class while also being good for you and playing to your strengths and being something that you're comfortable and confident about. You may find yourself not in an actual class, but teaching to a group of students who have been motivated by pizza or some other strategy to come out and be an audience for your demo. And you may find that there are no students involved and you're doing a teaching demonstration just for a group of faculty. All of these things are weird, and it's really hard to teach authentically when you are working with people that you've only just met, or where there may be, this is not an ideal situation, but you may find that the faculty who have assembled are refusing to do the activity that you planned. That happened to one person I was working with. Maybe that tells you you don't want that job after all. So one other variation on this is you're assigned a topic because they want every finalist to teach the same topic so that they can compare how people approached it. That's something that I've seen, especially in STEM fields, where you're assigned a topic and everyone is doing the same lesson. So how are you going to make this unnatural presentation successful? Obviously, you want to get as much information as you can from the search chair or whoever you're communicating with about the context of the class, if it's a class, or who's going to be in the room, and figuring out how the room is configured, what's the tech situation. The more you can learn about the physical space you're going to be working in, the more you can try to plan a lesson that's going to be successful. And in my experience, typically they're not going to try to be coy with you. They're not going to, withhold information from you. They may be disorganized, and you may be getting your schedule late in the day. But a committee should know, they should at least give you a heads up that they want a teaching demo, even if they haven't locked down the full itinerary for your visit. Sorry. Now, if you have discretion over what you're teaching, I would say, and I've heard this from Penn faculty who had experiences when they were on the job market, show your range, right? So I heard this from a faculty member in East Asian Languages and Civilizations. She's a medievalist, but for her teaching demonstration, she deliberately did a 19th and 20th century topic to show that she wasn't narrowly focused on her area of expertise. And in most jobs outside of research universities, range or breadth is your friend. You really want to be communicating as often as you can that you have the ability and the willingness to teach beyond your particular corner of your discipline. Keep doing that. Now, unless you are specifically told that what the committee wants is a straight didactic lecture, don't do that, right? You want to try to plan for some engagement with the participants, with the students in the class, with the students who have been mustered for the event, with the faculty who have assembled. I know one person who, it's very rare that you get feedback on these things, but one person who went on to have is now a tenured faculty member up in Canada, but she did a straight lecture at a liberal arts college and was specifically told by the search committee, that's one of the reasons why we didn't offer you the job, because we don't want people doing straight up lectures. That's not how we teach. And so I think the best you can, you want to try and find a way to get some engagement. And I acknowledge that it's hard when you've just met the students and they've just met you and you don't have a relationship with them, but to try to get some of that happening. And here, you want to try to have a teaching demo that bears some resemblance to how you talked about teaching in your cover letter or in your teaching statement, if you've been asked to submit those. Some fields you almost certainly will have submitted a teaching statement, others probably not. But if you've described certain teaching priorities and certain teaching techniques, you probably want to manifest at least some of those things in the teaching demo so that you seem to be a coherent professional. If you're dropping into a class, again, you want to do your homework. You want to, obviously look at the syllabus. And I think it's a real feather in your cap if you're able to connect what you're doing to something that the students did, show that you know what they did last week or what they did 3 weeks ago and make a connection to that. Or look at, make a connection between what you're talking about and what they're going to be doing next week or in 2 weeks' time, to just sort of really try to embed your lesson in their course and show that it shows that you care. It shows that you did your prep and that you're trying to make this non-disruptive for the students and to fit in with their learning, right? Because that's something that, if it's a real class, that's something that is obviously supposed to be happening. I would say a teaching demo is not time to try out polling software if you've never used it before, or try out something, some other new technology. You want to minimize the number of things that could possibly go wrong. And, again, like I said, you want to make sure you've got a good bead on the room setup, know that you're going to be able to show your slides or do the board work that you want to do or what have you. But I would stick with stuff that you're well familiar with and comfortable with. Um, you may or may not obviously be able to actually do a lesson that you've taught before. If you have the flexibility to pick something that you've actually done with students before and you know it works, then that's great, but you may not have that flexibility, obviously. I would say, if you're teaching in a relatively small class or to a small group of students, get yourself some paper name tents and try to engage with students by name. Again, it's a small thing, but it's the first step towards building a relationship, even if you're possibly never going to see them again. But it's the kind of thing that if I saw someone do that, I would be impressed by their thoughtfulness. Again, showing that you are thinking about how you would cultivate community in your classroom, right? This is maybe a little bit odd, but depending on your field, you might be able to come up with some kind of local angle that becomes part of your lesson. And so I saw someone who was doing a teaching demo about an ecological topic who made reference to a particular marshland or something like that near the campus where she was interviewing. Or I saw someone else doing an art history teaching demo, making reference to some works in a local collection. And again, I think it just shows that you are thinking about what it would mean to teach in that place, and that that you're not just kind of phoning it in, or you're not giving a generic presentation. It's not a magical suggestion, but I think it might be something that could be fun. And again, I think it would reflect well on the care with which you have prepared the demo. Now, I already told you that I was going to advertise this, but I want you to know that come talk to us as soon as you find out what you're being asked to do. Even before that, I know that this is about teaching demos, but come talk to us about your application materials. Happy to look at the teaching portions of your cover letter, look at teaching statement, teaching philosophy, teaching portfolios, etc., as is being discussed in other sessions in this great event organized by Allison. Um, come talk to us to brainstorm ideas. And then if you want, come to our space to practice. Most departments will gather folks together to help you practice your job talk. In my experience, most departments will not get people together to help you practice a teaching demo because people are busy and because people feel they don't have experience doing it. You can come and use our space, or because I am extremely nerdy, I will try to find a room on our campus that's like the room you're going to be doing the demo in, so you can practice there. So I had somebody who was doing a demo in an enormous lecture hall, and we were able to book one of Penn's larger lecture theaters for him to practice in, because thinking about how he was going to perform in that larger space was an important part of the run through. You can bring your friends, you can bring your faculty, you can bring anyone you like. And I'll muster some of my colleagues to come and give you feedback. But so don't hesitate to ask. And you might be working up multiple teaching demos. You can have as much of our time as is useful to you. So please don't hesitate to get in touch.